To Fateh first. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji. Okay, today we're going to continue on with Maharaj's Kirpa. Maharaj has blessed us with the Bani of Japji Sahib, which is most immensely important in our lives. So today we will continue with the 20th body, and we'll start as ever by saying the part of the 20th body, and then we'll move on and we'll start to look to discuss what Maharaj is teaching us and what teachings are in this body. So all together, Pariye Pani Tothe Uttara Sukhe Moot Kalipti Kappar Hoy Desa Bhuli Ho Hoy Pariye Mahapapa Sasam O Tothe Name Gyan Punni Papi Akhan Nahe कर कर करना निकल जाए अपे बीज आपे ही खाओ नानक हुई हो जाए वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह. Gone quiet for me. I'm not in the right place either. Okay, so last time we discussed the last four bodies have been focused around Vaheguru Ji's Qudrat, how Maharaj has created the creation and how that creation is expanding, and how Vaheguru sits within his creation is a lip, separate, and lip is part of it as well. Vyapak actually in it, and the lip removed from it at the same time. So body folk 20 now moves on in a different area, in a different way. And we could probably say the key elements of body 20 are, firstly, it says focuses on removing the dirt that creates the barrier between Vaheguru and us. So you probably remember, the astute amongst you and those who were right at the start of Japji Sahib, we said in the first body, Maharaj asks two questions, Kiv Satyara Hoye, Kiv Kure Tutte Pa, that between us as the human soul and Vaheguru, so the human soul is known as the Atma, and Vaheguru is known as Paramatma, the big, the large, the Atma that exists, that absorbs everything else. So our Atma is separated from Paramatma, and between that, what separates us is this wall of falsehood, which we describe as dirt. So body 20 focuses on firstly establishing what is this dirt, this filth, this wall of filth that stands between us, our Atma, and Vaheguru Paramatma. It also talks about Pap and Pun, and then it talks about how to wash the internal dirt or filth, because there are two types, and you probably know that because you do the part. Now, you probably remember right at the beginning as well, when we set the scene on Japji Sahib, we went through one or two programs talking about some of the questions that people were asking at the time about religion, and why Guru Nanak Dev Ji wrote Japji Sahib to help us. So the ones I've highlighted in red are the ones that probably are part and parcel of this body, are probably addressed in this body. And one was, how do we become pure? One was, what is right and wrong? And the last one on that I've highlighted is, what is Pap and Pun? Because people use these words, Pap, Pun, they use words right and wrong, or meanings of those, and they talk about being pure. So we talk about Uryar, false. We talk about Sach, Satyar, truthful. We talk about Nirmal, being pure. So there's a number of words that we use in Punjabi and in Gurbani and in Gurmukhi that mean pure and the opposite of that. So when we talked about, so when we say Vaheguru is our Gur mantra. What did we describe Japji Sahib as being? Which mantra? Does anybody remember? Hanji.
Is it Bij mantra?
Not Bij mantra, no. Another one. Begins with an M.
Mala.
Mala mantra. Yeah. So Japji Sahib is described as our Mala mantra. So the question is, why is Japji Sahib described as Mala mantra? Anyone have a guess? Mala ki hunda? What do you know? No? Mala? Do you know? You do know. Hi.
So there's loads of different beads, and then you have to count.
Necklace made of beads, yeah? Okay. So the answer is, Japji Sahib is our mala, not the why. Because Japji Sahib, it is likened to a mala, a necklace, which is made of precious beads, jewels, pearls. Now in everyday language in English, you probably hear that somebody has given you some advice, and they will say, that was a pearl of wisdom, But Japji Sahib in particular is not just any wisdom, it is spiritual wisdom. And each and every body, as we move through it, gives us some teaching, some spiritual teaching that raises us and gets us to focus on how do we break the wall of falsehood. So Maharaj is giving us spiritual teaching. And those people that buy into Japji Sahib properly eventually reach the stage of Brahm Gyan. And often it says that Japji Sahib Bani gives Brahm Gyan, gives knowledge of Vaheguru. And that's why we're separated. So, that's by way of introduction. So you remember we talked about Man, and Guru Sahib Ji has dedicated Char Paudhiyan to Man, Manne. Then we even did a separate program on what Man constitutes. And we said Man was made of your Mat, your Bod, your Chit, and your Ahankar, or my I-ness. What am I? Where do I fit into this world? If you remember, some of those questions people were asking at the outset was, what am I here? What is this world? Where do we go after this world? So we used, one of the words we used was Buddh. And Buddh is our understanding of anything. And Buddh has the task, or the reason why Buddh exists is to do Khoj. What's Khoj mean? Hanji. Explore, yeah. So you probably have heard the shod, Bande Khoj Dil Har Roj. That man, explore your dil, your heart, your mind, your inner feelings every day. Yeah? Khoj means to search, to explore. And the works of the Buddha is to explore. Now in the world, if you look at the world today, people explore planets, people explore scientifically. Now, in the world, they explore worldly things, what we call sansar. They explore the sansar, they explore the world. And there's been many explorations and discoveries that people have dedicated their lives to. So I don't know, who invented penicillin? Come on, you do know this. I know you know it. Just, or no? You've forgotten?
I think Fleming.
Fleming, I think it was Fleming, wasn't it? Was it Fleming? Assume, some scientist. And he spent his whole life, and what people do with their Buddha, and how Buddha works is, people dedicate their Buddha to discovering the laws, the qualities and the workings of particular things. So somebody in medicine, for instance, would go and discover all about medicine. And somebody might specialise in the heart. Somebody might specialise as a carpenter, how to make things out of wood. And when they do that, they present something back to the world that is useful, that gives benefit. So whoever discovered penicillin discovered an antibiotic, which helps us when we're not well. So for the benefit of the world, a sansari thing has been discovered. Somebody discovered how to make an aeroplane so we can travel and fly long distances. And there's a benefit to the world. But these benefits are worldly benefits, not spiritual benefits. So the other thing that the Buddha has the ability to do is to do Khoj of Vaheguru, Paramatma. And the saintly people and the bhagats of this world, they do a different Khoj. They Khoj inside themselves. Yeah, so remember we did the Shabd with which of the Jopende So Brahmande, which was by Bhakt Pipaji, and that was all about discovering your inside and exploring your inside. So Bhakts do this different thing to the rest of the sansar. They explore their Buddha and their Khoj, their Buddha's Khoj of their mind, of their soul, what's inside them. And in doing so, they also achieve something. So their end achievement is understanding and getting Param Anand, the true and eternal bliss. And in turn, what the Bhakts do, they come back to the world and they say, let us also teach you, or teach you the ways and the efforts that you need to make, so you too can get Paramanand. So Buddhi is very important, and that's why we've done these subject matters where we break out, talk about Buddha, we talk about other things. And in this body we'll further go and talk about Bab and Bun. Yeah, does that make sense? Okay, first line of the body. All together? That's it. This is a nice easy body, or easy start. Himmat Singh, hat ki hunde.
Hands.
Okay. Also we've got Harai kot pair ki hunde. Feet. Now the hard bit. Distinctions between tan and de. There is your torso. So what's done, the whole thing together, is your body. Okay. So Maharaj now uses this technique to get us to understand the difference between the dirt of the outside world and the dirt of the inside of the mind. It says Pariya. Pariya means, if I gave you a glass and say no parke leke aa, what does that mean? Fill it to the top, fill it. So when our hands, so who plays football? Yes, I knew it was. So, okay, so Jujaj Singh, when you get dirty when you play football, do your hands get dirty like that? Do you have to play in the really cold, horrible weather and get dirty? Then you come home and you give your clothes to your mum to wash, yeah? And she gives you an earful. And she gives your dad an earful for making you play football. Yeah? The same with you, Prahlad Singh, yeah? They complain, aa gaya gande kapde leke. Yeah? Yeah. This used to happen to this lot as well, but they don't get told off now. But what happens is in the outside world, when we enter the outside world, in the outside world there's pollution. Lots of pollution. Poor old Gookie, there's actually lots of eczema because he doesn't do too good with pollutants in the air, and they make him itch and scratch. And he was a goalkeeper. And when you go outside, you're hot, you get melly, you get dirty. Because there's dirt outside. And when you play, you get dirty, and your bear get dirty, and things. So in life, things get dirty. So, body, yeah, heart, bear, done there. All of those elements, heart, bear, the torso, the whole body, get dirty through pollutants, through dust, through air pollution, through whatever. If I go and garden in the wet, and then I come back in, all my hands are normally really dirty, and my wellies are like got lots of mud on them, and then I bring them outside and create a mess in the porch, and I get told off, and then all these things. So like your football boots are really dirty when you play football. So things get dirty. So body, yeah, hot, bad, done. These things get dirty. But what happens when we get a bit more dirty in terms of we can wash our bodies? So what do we do when this happens? Together? Okay. Tote means to? Yes. So after you come in and your mothers have had a go at you, then they will throw the kapre on there. Yeah? They wash them. And the washing machine uses pani. Pani tote utras ke. The ke, the muck gets washed away with pani. But that's outside dirt, and water can wash it away. How about the dirt that the body produces? And Maharaj now refers to this dirt. All together? Okay. So as clean as we think we are, our bodies produce things that we no longer want. And our bodies then reject and cast out the things we don't want. And Maharaj says, Mood paliti kapar hoy. Kapre are your clothes, any sorts of clothes. And through everyday life, through our actions, as we have to do as part of being human beings, our clothes get soiled with nasty things. And every day we get changed, and we change our clothes and we put them into the wash. And these can't be washed just with water. They now have to be washed with detergents and soaps. So you go to Aldi or you go to Sainsbury's, wherever you go, you look along the shelves and you see lots of different washing powders. This one, this one, this one, and this one does this. And it's all to wash your clothes. And you have to wash certain clothes in certain different ways. Some have to be washed at a low temperature, some at a high temperature. But these detergents will clean your clothes. And once your mums have then washed your clothes, put them out to dry, and iron them, and you take them out your drawers again, and they're nice and pristine, nicely folded, ready for Monday school. And what happens is that multiple itti can get washed. How? But this balid is an Arabic word, means intensely dirty. So they're not just like dirty that you can wash away with water, they're much more dirtier than that. Yeah? And what happens is we wash those. But in this particular case, how do we wash them? With, altogether? Okay. So we take soap, their sabun, sabun. We take the sabun or the sabun, or washing detergents now, laye oho toy. So that's that. Those kapde that are dirty, ਉਹ ਧੋਤੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ with sabun. So far what we've discussed is what we can describe as the outside, our bodies. Now, 2 or 3 months ago we talked about the difference between the inside and the outside. And we talked about our sarir. Another word for body is sarir. Okay? And we have 2 types of sarir. We have an astul sarir, which is our visible body and all our organs. Maharaj says over and above that we have a suksham sarir that we can't see. It's invisible to us. It's invisible to scientists. So nobody can put a camera down you and find your suksham sarir. It exists in there. So 2 questions for you. Why are they different? And how does the filth or the dirt associated with the astul sarir differ to the dirt from the suksham sarir? Do you remember this slide? Say yes, makes me feel better. Yeah, you probably do remember it. We did that. It was when we talked about man and mat. Yeah. So it says there that astul sarir is your visible body, your suksham sarir is the other one. But within our suksham sarir is those things that people can't see. Our consciousness, our intellect, our mind, our buddh, or understanding, yeah? And when we recite Naam, we talked about Akri Naam, was it last time or the time before? But the idea is that the Naam and the Shabd eventually impact your Astul Sarir. Your Suksham Sarir can only be influenced by those. You can't wash that with washing powder. You can't wash it with Bani, you can't wash it with Sabun. Has to be treated in a different way. So only the Shabd can detect the Suksham aspect. Therefore, for us to be able to clean what Maharaj calls the inside, we have to be aware that we actually are a soul and not necessarily just a physical body. And eventually, through Shabd, people awaken to this. But not everybody in this world is actually awakened to the fact that they actually have an inside sarir as well. Some people live their whole life just orientated around themselves, how good they look, how young they can keep themselves looking, how fantastic they are, and they're forever associated only with their astul sarir, never with their suksham sarir. So back to the question, so I'll let you do some work. So why are they different? I think we've explained that. So how does the dirt and the filth affecting them differ? Have a think. So think about some of the worldly filth we talked about. What gets on your hands when you play football and gardening? Mud. Yeah? What happens to poor old Gurkirat when he goes out past industrial places? Card. Which is caused by? Pollution. How do you?
Even the stores that do like stuff like cigarettes and stuff.
Absolutely.
Like
Gone.
your internal organs are getting done by physical stuff.
All that exists outside, and those are things. So, I want to ask you to see how they differ at the moment, because we probably answer those in the next doc. So altogether, next talk says, Pariye mat papa ke sang. Mat is part of your one. So pariye mat with what? Papa ke sang. So here comes that word that everybody wants to explain, everybody wants to talk about. So in the, which body was it? Is it in the 18th body when we talked about the negative side or the one side of creation that was opposite to the good side? We talked about asank papi paap kar jaye. And what did that mean? Remember? Hanji, did you say?
People who do sins can do sins.
Yeah, or there's countless sins. Asank papi paap kar jaye. That countless sinners sin in different ways. Which brings us on to the question. Which brings us on to the question, what is Baap? Because Baap is the filth, or part of the filth on the inside. Now I didn't transition this slide, didn't have enough time. So I've done all your hard work for you, now I'm going to hide it. So types of Baap. So firstly, in Judaism and I think Christianity, they talk about the 10 commandments. And those commandments are how people should lead their lives, and they talk about some of the wrong things. So in addition to that, when you saw that slide, and it's now gone, what sort of Baap is there? Hanji.
Deceiving.
Deceiving or? Hanji.
Wrongdoing.
Wrongdoing. Hanji.
Lying.
Lying. Robbery. Tabli.
Murder.
Murder. Tanjo.
Stealing.
Sorry?
Stealing.
Stealing, yeah. Gusevak.
Destroying.
Destroying. There's all sorts. So, we can say all of these. And these branch into different types of things. So sins generally, lying, unethical behaviour, immoral behaviour, stealing, deceiving. So Maharaj said, Asanka papi paap kar jaye. But I think we can probably sum it up to say it is paap when we think, when our thinking causes somebody else anguish, causes somebody else pain, or is aimed at dishonouring somebody else. So some people do those sort of Baap. We have to ask ourselves, if I take a particular path in my life, if I do a certain action, am I only doing it to stop somebody else doing it? So does it become a negative behaviour? And I think when you did the Karma presentation, we talked about that Karma are not only affected by your physical acts, but also by your thoughts as well. So does my thinking limit other people's ability to do something, and their thinking is blocked by my actions? And often if you look at the world, we talked about these things. Dharmic is the religious world. Rajanitik is the political world. Samajik is the world generally. Arthik is financial. And sometimes you see financial wrongdoing. Somebody works for a bank and they embezzle money, they steal money, or they do something that they shouldn't be doing. Or in political life, people will do something that's unethical. So all sorts of life, asanka papi paap kar jaye. And over and above this, there's two elements to Baap. There's conscious Baap and unconscious Baap. Now sometimes you might do something that is considered a Baap, a wrongdoing, but you haven't done it knowingly, you haven't done it for the wrong reasons, it's just something that's happened. Yeah? And Maharaj says that's like dirt attaching unconsciously. But equally, Maharaj also says there's people acting in an unconscious way. And Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji has a shabd. Well, you've done what you asked. I'll put the reference on. So, in Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, 220, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji says, Nar achet paap te dar re. So unconscious people, beware of sins, even if you're doing them unconsciously. Or wake up to the fact that you're doing sins. Yeah? Because Baap lead to karma, we'll see that a bit later on. So nobody, I think, deliberately, well, let's put that again. Most people don't want to do barb in a conscious way. And sometimes people do unconscious barb, or they make a mistake. Let's call it make mistakes, which are deemed as barb. In those particular cases, I mean, even in our religion, if somebody does something wrong, then somebody might get a tankar, somebody might get a fine, gurdwara, which might be jode and sevaka, or pandit, or do so much part. And low-level barb, Maharaj says, yes, Appa, we can do these sort of things that will help us, one, become conscious of that part, but secondly, also take that barb away to remove it. So the other thing Maharaj says about barb, we'll come back to this one, it's more to do with the conscious barb. Now the conscious barb is what we Punjabi would say jaan bujh ke. We fully and totally know what we're doing. Yeah? So if Maskeen Kaur leaves her purse there when she goes down, well, she hasn't got a purse, she's got a nice phone there. She leaves her phone there when it's the break, and I might think to myself, my screen's cracked, and this is about 5 years old, and yours is brand new. Is yours 5 years old as well?
Probably.
Well, I'll probably nick Prahlad Singh, so. Okay, I'll nick somebody else's.
He's older.
He's years old. Oh, the oldest kids are probably have the best phone. It's always true, isn't it? Yeah, because you get the hand-me-downs, don't you? So your phone might be the best, and I might think, I'll have that one, thank you very much. And I might think, and that's a very conscious decision, that I'm having that phone, because it makes me better, makes me feel better. I don't have to pay for it. Now the fact that I want to cause you anguish, and probably a good beating by your mum and dad, yeah? But do you remember what I said before, that we get to a point where we do things and we cause others pain and anguish through our actions, that becomes a barb. So, I was talking about this, and I was talking to Gurkir, then I said, okay, because he's talking law, and in law, you can probably explain this better than me, is that when we do a barb, or in law, when somebody is tried, do you want to tell me what this slide's about then?
Right, so we cover it in criminal law, and it's the general idea that if you commit a crime, the action isn't a crime unless we can prove that your mind was guilty as well. So on the 4 bullet points there, they're examples of mens rea, which is Latin for guilty mind. So for example, if we use the example of stealing a phone, we steal it with the intent of wanting to have the phone. So we take the phone saying, this will be a nice new phone for me, but we also have got the knowledge that that used to be your phone, and that the knowledge that I'm taking it away from you. So an example there in crime of whereby Astu Sari, in terms of us taking it, is also put into context with our mind and our man in terms of Asuksham Sari, in terms of what are our mental steps to go into that process of stealing it.
Okay, thank you. So, a conscious barb, even in the legal system, it says if there's intent and knowledge, that is defining that person as being guilty. Yeah? So, when a case goes to court, people will say, some people get let off crimes because they're mentally not capable of creating that crime if their mind was of stable nature. So, even consciously, so Maharaj says, beware of barb, both unconscious and conscious. So unconscious barb, we can only learn to be more careful, because unconscious by its very nature means that we didn't have any control over it. But we need to do that. So in all of these, there's known barb. Now these barb can't be addressed in the same way as Thodi Jai Seva Karli. We do a part for a short while, and those are forgiven. No. This is male that is more ingrained. So the question here is, what is the male, the dirt that affects Mat? And I think we've talked about some of it. So barb is not the only one. Barb is a consequence of other things, of greed, of the 5 evils. They lead people to do barb. Yeah. So where do these come from? Why are some people more prone to do barb than others? Well, it says here, many carry the weight of these barb from their karma, from their previous lives. So when we had the presentation on that, the people carry forward their barb from their previous lives into their next life. And many of those people remain ignorant to the fact that they have bad karma. they always think it's bad luck for some reason. Why this happened to me? This always happens to me. And they continue to think and act in the wrong way, and they never learn from them. I've done a papa before, and therefore something negative came out of it, or I must have done papa in my previous life, therefore maybe I should now redeem myself on that path. And what also happens is that these people don't always, sometimes, very commonly get involved with the wrong sangat. They get involved with the wrong people at school. And as soon as they leave school, they're involved with the wrong gangs outside, and they become criminal in a particular way, or they become deceptive in a particular way. And the wrong sangat, together with the past karma, continue to make people very negative in how they come across. So when mat is continually dyed in the colour of barb, it becomes maleen. Maleen means dirty. And I'll go back to the other we put up before. So this Slok Maharaj says, Papi karma kamavte karde hai hai. So hai hai means to say, weep and wallow. This has happened to me. But Maharaj says, this is Papi people, and they do hai hai. But they've done their karma, they've created karma, which leads them to do this. And Guruji goes on to say, Nanak jo mathan madaniya, do mathe dharma rai. That the dharma rai, the judge, the judge or the person that, or the body or the entity that judges people, every single action of every moment of the day, and we'll talk about Chitragupta a bit later on, like churning butter, separates the cream from what's not. And equally, when people do actions, wrongdoings, pap, whatever you want to call it, the Dharmaraj through Chitragupta, we'll come on to those, as I said, that seminar later, records every single action of every single entity ever. And it's a big volume. And like in a criminal case, people will bring evidence against you. This evidence will be readily available in the court of Vaheguru, in the Dharmaraj's court, where people's minds and people's souls are called to account. So, should we stop and have a quick recap? So, the body begins pariye, altogether pariye. So, hathaper and there can be soiled and dirtied by the dirt, the pollutants in the air. Yeah? And how can we wash those? Yes. And then mutpaliti kapar hoy, so clothing that is soiled even more so, more intensely and deeply. How do we wash those? There. Yeah. And then the next bit Maharaj now defines separately as our suksham sarir. Pariye mat ohotope. Okay, so only Naam can wash things, and we'll come on to that. So in Asadivar now, now throughout history, throughout time, people have acted in different ways. Now during the time of Guru Nanak Dev Ji and before, during the time of the Bhagats, the caste system would define people in different ways. So the Brahmin caste will often refer to everybody else as below them, not only financially and from a spiritual point of view, but they've always deemed them also to be polluted or filthy in a different way to themselves. Deem themselves to be pure and deem everybody to be less pure. And in particularly, they're very scathing on women, and that's why Guru Nanak Dev Ji raised the status of women, because they described women as being dirty and below in society. And they used, the people of that time used a particular word called sutak, which means polluted. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji spends a lot of time in Asadivar talking about the concept of sutak. And they define the difference between physical dirt and what they called the male of the mat. And Guruji says, don't just go calling people polluted or dirty because you think so, because it suits you to say, because in the end Maharaj and Dharmaraj will decide who is what. So, Guruji says, Jekar Sutak Maniye, Sabte Sutak Hoy. Firstly, they said to the Brahmin, if you think everything is impure, just be aware then there's impurity everywhere. Gohe atte lakdi andar kira hoy. Kira is a worm or a small insect creature. And the Brahmins used to clean their kitchens using dung and say it was clean. They used to do their puja. And then remember we said they made a line and a square and said this is now pavitra. Amara says you're saying that other people are sutak, they're polluted, but you take goha, cow dung, and you clean your kitchen, and you use wood in your fire, and in that wood there's little creatures polluted. Jete dane anke jiyan bajna koy. Everything that you eat has microscopic for life form, whether it's living entity or not living entity, and even these Mahasa are entities. Pehla pani jiyo hai jat harya sab koy. And that water that's in everything, we might filter our water and everything, particularly when you go to India, you try and drink filtered water, because otherwise you're going to get a bellyache and you're going to get everything because the water's polluted. And even filtering water still has life form in it. Sota kyo ka rakhiye, sota ka pave rasoy. And Guruji says to the Brahmins, just because you draw a line around your kitchen and say it's now unpolluted, everything in your kitchen is polluted. So your mums will take antibacterial spray and clean the surfaces. Like we do that when you bake your cake here. You clean your surfaces, you clean your chopping boards, you clean your knives, you wash your cutlery, you wash your plates. You know something? They're still not clean. Yeah, because our rasoi, and in particular those days, the rasoi of the Brahmins who used to clean it with cow dung and do this, that, the other with it, was still not clean. Nanak sotak evana uttare, gyan utare to. That this impurity, this pollution that you call that exists in other people, is washed away only with spiritual knowledge, not by being a high caste, not by being superior to somebody else. So Guruji goes on to talk about impurity further. And Guruji says, Manka sutak lobh hai. Lobh, greed, jeva sutak kur. Now we talked about pap not only existing from a point of view of a physical sense, but of the mind. And one of the biggest impurities, Guru said, is greed. I want this and I want that and I should have that and I've got this much money, but I want more and I want his as well and I want hers as well. This greed of things. Guruji says people should be content. Manka sutak lobh hai, jeva sutak kur. And I think a number of programs we talked about in the same, Sanka Papi Pap Karja, we also talked about the Asanka Nindak Sarkare Par. And one way of having par on your head is for your jeva, your tongue, to talk good, badly or slanderously about somebody. Akki sutak vekhana, partara partanurup. So to look at other people's property, other people's husbands and wives in the wrong way, Guruji says is a pollution of the eyes. Kanni sutak kannape lai tabari khai. The impurity of slander we spoke about earlier. Nanak hansa admi badde jampur jai. And then the soul of that person, of those wrongdoings, has to be accounted for. Like physical pap and physical criminal law that happens at a physical level or even at a mental level in this world, equally Guruji says, Jinadi mat malina is dirty, they too also get punished. Why? Because when they get dragged through the court of Vaheguru, they have to be accountable. Sabbo soot ka param hai, dujje lagge jaye. Now Guruji also now says one of the biggest reasons why people's man or soul remains in a poppy state or in a negative state is because it has so much doubt. When I said we talk about Atma and Paramatma, and the inability of man to decide that man and man's mind comes from Vaheguru, i.e. the Atma belongs to the Paramatma, and the man sees himself or herself as an individual, then there's this duality, this sansari, this wanting to belong to the world as opposed to belonging to Vaheguru. So it says, Sabbo Sutaka Param hai, Duje Lagge Jai. Why? Whilst we're in duality and while we continue to be involved in the world, we continue to be impure. Jamman Marna Hukam hai Pane Ave Jai. And one of the reasons why the Brahmins said women were impure is because they give birth, and they said that's an impure act. And Guruji says, were you not born? Were you not born to woman? Did you come into this world in a different way to everybody else? And Guruji said, Jamman Marna Hukam hai, that this coming and going is God's command. Khana pina pavitra hai, di don krit sambhahe. And sometimes people would not, eating and drinking, you can't drink that, you can't eat that, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can only eat that when I say so. Yeah? And all this falsehood was taking place. And Guruji finishes this part by saying, Nanak jini gurmukh bujya tina sutak nahi. Those gurmukhs that understand this, they are then not infected by impurity, because they understand what impurity is. Yeah? Nearly there. I'll wait for you to come. Yeah, we're talking about doubt. So we just talked about Sutak, yeah, and the impact on what impurity is and what is polluted and why society talked about certain elements being polluted. So in Anand Sahib Ji, Guruji also says about doubt and the doubt that affects one's mind. So whilst the human remains in doubt that I belong to Vaheguru, and they don't think that, they always think I belong to this world, and they spend all their time in worldly pursuits. Yeah, Guruji says, this male, how do we get the man to be clean? Yeah, manato bho sabda lagaho. Yeah, harsyo raho chittalaya. So your chit has to be remaining on the shabd, which removes your doubts. So this skepticism, this doubt is only removed when we listen to the shabd. Might be too much if we keep talking.
That's right.
Yeah? Okay. Okay. Do you get that bit? Was that a lot there to understand, but I wanted to introduce the concept of Sutak. In fact, I might get you to go away and actually look at yeah. Sorry? Yeah, I've just been through the Sutak boarding and okay. So let's talk more generally then. In Anand Sahib Ji then, the 19th and the 20th boarding, does anybody know what they're about? So we're talking about outward dirt, inward dirt.
Jiho.
So the 19th and the 20th boarding also have this, bring this. So every day we do an Anand Sahib, and in Anand Sahib, Guruji wants us to understand this thing, that don't deem yourselves to be clean on the outside, know yourselves to be not clean on the inside. So, Jiyaho Mele Baro Nirma. Got this nice pristine white thingy. Nice and clean, isn't it? Looks clean, doesn't it? Was, yeah. So Guruji says, but you can be Nirmal on the outside, Baro Nirmal, but on the inside, Jiyaho Mele. So if you're Mele on the inside, but not on the other side, Guruji says, Baro Nirmal Jiyaho Mele, Tini Janam Juwe Harya. Now, who would want to trade off their life on a toss of a coin? No, you wouldn't. Yeah, because Guruji says, if you're just playing this game of appearing Nirmal on the outside, but inside you're not pure, then essentially you've just lost this life. All your life is wasted, like on a toss of a coin.
Yeah, so we talked about doubt. That doubt kind of manifests itself in that way. You think, je main change karm kite, ki pata mainu kuch milunga ya na milunga. Yeah. So some people kind of fall on the side of, I'll do change karm, I'll do good things because I think eventually I might reap the rewards. Others will say, nah, can't be bothered. So it's that gamble through doubt, thinking if I did or if I didn't, maybe I will, maybe I won't. And that's what we're saying, that your mail in your mind is because of that doubt. If we were absolutely clear in our minds that we do good things, we'll get the rightful fruit.
Okay, so this attachment to the world is one of the reasons why we have doubt. Because we think the world is real, and because we can't see Vaheguru, we think that Vaheguru is not real. So we get caught in the desires for having things in the world, because money and cars and big houses and this and having prestige and things become real to the human or to the soul, rather than the reality that mantu jot sarup hai apna mool pashan, that recognize that you are the soul of Vaheguru. And it is na vadda rog laga mar manova sarya. And in this pursuit for worldly things, the human being forgets that one day I'm going to die. And the reality of life is, and Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji again and again in their Bani says, consider this world, consider this life to be a supana, a dream. And as you know, a dream ends. And he says, Veda mein naam uttam so sunay nahi, fire jo batalya. So, many doctrines of religion tell people to be one with God. But instead, people just wander. And they die and they die and they're born again and die and they're born again because of their attachment to the world. And Guruji says in the final part of this body, Kahe Nanak jin sat tajya kude lage tini janma juve harya. So we have forsaken such Vaheguru, Paramatma, and instead attached ourselves to the world. And the next body is the opposite. Jiyaho nirma, baro nirma. So those saintly people, those bhakts of Vaheguru, that are both pure on the inside and the outside, Bharata Nirmal, Jiya Nirmal, Satgute Karni Kamani. They perform good deeds. They recognize their position in relation to God. And Kur ki soy panche nahi mansa satsamani. And falsehood doesn't get anywhere near them. They don't do any barb. They're beyond barb. Yeah. Because they're for always their hope is in Vaheguru. Janam ratan jini khatya pale sevan jare. So on the opposite side, in the other body, those were that gambled their lives away. Remember, we said, Tini janam juve harya. Some people lose their life or the value of their life in a game, in a gamble. Whereas these, the Jiyo Nirmal and the Baro Nirmal, guess what? Janam ratan jini khatya. Life, or this life is described as a ratan, as a jewel. And in this case, it's been traded properly, it's had its full value. Yeah? Kahe Nanak jin man nirmal sada rahe gur nale. And those man that is nirmal forever will stay with Vaheguru. So I'm just going to finish off before we break here. And the next talk brings us to where we need to be. Go on, all together. Okay. So far we've done Parige hat pair tan deh pani tote utra sake. Moot paliti kapar hoy je sabun leye oh toy. Parige mat papa ke sang. And how do we wash those? Oh tope na vek erang. So that was quite deep, and it was quite a lot of examples from Barney, but that in the end that's where our examples will come. You know, worldly examples are good, and we need to understand those because they help us give us the context of our lives. But Barney, time and again, you'll find whichever Barney you read, wherever you read it from, at some point all the messages come together. They all come together and say, "Oh, so okay, we'll break now, and after the break we're going to talk about what does mean. What is this rang that Maharaj talks about? Okay, come back later, have a stretch, wash your faces with cold water, stay awake. Or just go and stand in the wind outside.
You've been mean of me today.
No, I've just been talking a lot. Shut up. Okay, so we finished off by this last talk. Rang. Okay, we said, what does rang mean? Tarnjot, what does? Yeah.
Colour.
Colour, yeah. In everyday language, rang means colour. Now, in Gurbani context, rang means love. And the colour that most associated with love is lal. And often you hear shabs, lal rang just called like. Yeah? So, lal and rang together, rang in itself, in Bani terms, most of the time will mean love. For Waheguru, for the Shabd.
One of the other ways of understanding what rang is rang in this context also means something that doesn't wash away. So armjira apne rang hunde, you know, what normal colours that we have in clothes dyes. When you wash it, often some of it dissipates. It kind of washes away. But in this context, this rang is magita. It doesn't wash away, it's permanent. Okay, so that's one of the kind of definitions of why this type of rang is unique, is different.
Yeah. So Mara says that when we wash away, so the water and the sabun can wash away superficial dirt off the surface, out of your clothes a bit deeper down. But the barb and the dirt that affects the mind has to be washed away with naam, but not just with naam by saying naam, but having love for naam. Yeah? Not just naam, but naam ke rang. That when you do your part, when you do your understanding of Shabd, you should have for Bani, for Kirtan, for part, we should have rang, we should have love.
So when we've done our Simran, I suppose the acid test is, mette koi rang chadya. Have I actually taken on some of the colour inside me that this naan should have done?
Yeah, so every time when we go to India, where we buy our fruit, there's a guy there who has this massive cauldron, and his job every day is to dye clothes. Often we'll go and see him as well. So somebody might want a chunni in a particular colour, or Gurkir wants the mullah in a particular colour, and we can't buy it. So we buy a white one, and the guy will dye it. And he puts the dye into his water, and then he puts his kapra in it, after he's put it in cold water, this, that, and the other, and then he puts it in there for a long time, and it really heats it hot. And then eventually the dye colour takes up into the cloth. And he washes it out to make sure that it's a proper bakka colour and it doesn't come out, and it stays there for a long time. And so what we're talking about is the rang, it's like a dye to put the dye on. So in any religion, so we will say Waheguru, in Islam they will say Allah, in Hinduism they say Ram. We can repeat Ram, Allah, Waheguru as many times as we like, but rang is about when the mouth utters something that the mind must be attuned to it. So we can say Waheguru for hours on end, but until the ras, the sweetness, enters us and we are not in rang, then it doesn't affect and doesn't wash out what we're trying to wash out. Okay, so rang auto bename ke rang. Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji in their sloks, they talk about a rang coming to your heart, to your soul, to your mind, whichever way. Ram naam aur main gaho. Aur means heart. Jaake sam nahi koi. So there's nothing equal to naam, but I've enshrined the naam within my heart. So rang udo chalda when it's in your heart. People you have love for are the ones that you remember in your heart. And equally, Bhagat Farid Ji say,
Kind of traditional religion, there was always discourses, writings about aap hai, aap honne. Aida aap nu karna chahiye, aida aap nu nahi karna chahiye. Now, in Sikhi, we kind of don't practice dharma in that way. But we practice dharma in such a way that by our very actions, they always will be bunni. That our kind of path leads us in a certain direction. So what we don't have to do is say, aha paapya, aha punya, aha paapya, punya. And people use those words kind of very loosely. They use them as accusations. E papi hai, yeah. E changa nahi banda, e idda karna wo karta. So people use these kind of labels, but in this context, what Guruji is telling us is that mere words, by saying something like "e papi, e punniya," you don't become that. These are just labels. The people's kind of label in the true sense is what Waheguru gives us, is what our judgment will be in the end. So, yeah.
So we could say so and so's papi, so and so murak, so and so's this, and so was janga. And depending on your own stance, you can say that. And especially in the political world, people have alliances. Oh, that party jangi, and yet they'll be as dishonest as the day is long. But you know, they say they're jangi or maria, and then you have it in other areas as well. So punni papi akarna, just by aking, just by saying, somebody cannot become punni or papi. Instead, altogether. So somebody might actually accidentally do a barp. We talked about unconscious barp. And somebody might be doing conscious barp all the time, and they get to like that habit of doing barp, and they keep doing stealing, etc., etc. Now the person that did it once isn't necessarily a papi in that way. They might redeem themselves, but the person who keeps doing those papi actions, the wrong actions, as Bhai said, in Sikhi, we rise above just saying Paap and Pun. That's why we don't necessarily have 10 commandments or things like 10 commandments. We in Bani just know what is right and what is wrong. We should know what is a right action, what is wrong action, because Bani tells us against that. So kar karna likh le jao. So if you repeat something, sometimes you get good at something. So those people that are good at football, they get good at football or at a particular skill or playing an instrument by practice. How many times do your teachers, whoever teach you, say, make sure you practice, make sure you practice? So, are you in advanced class now? Are you? You practice a lot. Say yes, makes me feel the right answer. Yeah, so you practice, you get better. So that's why I put a picture of you about 7, 8 years ago, and you're really little. Yeah, because since then you've practiced a lot. Yeah, so all of those you that practice in any area become better. But those people that practice barp all the time, that becomes their mode of operation, and again, and that purpose defined by papi, by continue doing the wrong things. And that's why Maharaj says kar karna likh le jao. And this so this vicious circle starts to happen. So they start off where their karma bad anyway because of their deeds, and they make more bad deeds, and their deeds become their sanskar, that becomes their, as I said, mode of operation. Their undertakings are always wrong. If you're another sabab anjanta, what we say in Punjabi is equal to habit. So sometimes people ask, I can't stop stealing. Can't stop lying. It becomes a habit. And in time that becomes their destiny. They're just stuck in that circle. And after that destiny, then out of that, the outcome is, if they do good karma and good things and good sabah and good destiny, they'll have sok. If they do the bad things, they'll have dok. So this dok and sok. So this dok and sok continues, and that in turn becomes their karma. And this chakkar, this kar karna likh le jao, it gets written. Now we spoke about chittarango before, didn't we? Is that why then does this happen? So kar karna likh le jao.
So, question: can that cycle break, or what could cause that cycle to break if it does? Very good. Yeah. Anything else that can help us break that cycle? Think about the role of the Satguru. What's one of the traits that the Satguru has that human beings don't have? Anji?
They're close to enlightenment.
Yeah.
Close to God.
Yeah. But what kind of powers do they have? Think of some Sakya in Ityas where the Sikh will say to Guruji that, bless me with this, help me get this, deliver me this. Satguru would often then say, their riposte would be, Thoda likhya nahi hega. So in this circle, ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕਰਮਾਂ 'ਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ to have a child or to have deliverance. But the God of Sikh will then say, you wrote my destiny, you can rewrite it. So, take this right back when we first started doing this program on Japji Sahib. One of the questions that we were asked is that, what's the point if you know what your destiny is going to be, the karma can't be changed, if it's already preordained, what's the point? And I think the answer that we came back with was that we, apna jehda hukm is that we have to keep trying. Because Satguru can transform us. Because Satguru is transformational in terms of can deliver us from death to life. Marjiwala. Now, Marjiwala isn't just physically Guruji can raise us from the dead. Guruji can spiritually raise us from the dead as well. That's what Marjiwala is in this context. So, can that cycle be broken? Satguru Dimir. With the grace of Waheguru, with Satguru, yes, it can be.
Yeah, so if you remember, Nadri Karmi Ave Kapara Nadri Mokh Dwa. So you need the Nadar of the Guru and Waheguru. And it can. But do you remember when I spoke about in Sikhi, intuitively we know the right behaviours, or those that absorbed in Bani will know the right behaviours. And every day when we do Part, so you remember when we said we do unconscious Part, ਆਪਾਂ ਥੋੜੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਸੇਵਾ ਲਾ ਦਈਏ, ਕੋਈ ਤਨਖਾਹ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਂਦੀ, and we then get deliverance from that path. But these ingrained ones, why do God spend, some of them spend their whole life doing Part Abhyas? Because Holly doing that part with, as Jujal Singh said, with love for Waheguru and with love for the Shabd, these Paap, or whatever Paap we have done in the past, they start to get erased. You remember the Sakhi of the two people of Guru Nanak time, one who goes to a bad place and one who goes to do Sangat, and one finds a bag or a pot with just one gold coin, and one steps on a thorn. And Guruji explains the one who stepped on the thorn was going to be impaled on a crucifix, but because he'd actually done Sangat and he'd done in his time good things, his karma had been reduced to just that. Whereas the person who found the single gold coin, that whole pot was going to be found of gold coins. So we do say, yes, Janga, Papi, Bunni, Papi, but we move above the actual Pap and Pun and say, Apan Naam Japi Jana. This spiritual effort, continue Naam Japi Jao, Naam Japi Jao. If you don't know it, learn it. Keep learning. Everybody can step up, and Sikhi is all about developing and moving forward. Yeah. So kar karna likh la jao. But generally in the world, karma will define as Papi and Punya. Why? Because altogether. Okay. So I said earlier on when people say, "Oh, why this happened to me? Why this happened to me?" Guru says ever so clear. If I give you a packet of seeds which has got thorns in them, are you going to get nice marigolds out of them? You know what marigolds are?
Only you know.
Follow them there. Really nice. Okay, so if I give you a packet of thorns and you sow them, then what's going to grow out of them is a thicket bush with thorns on it. If I give you, let's use a nice one. If I give you some nice flower seeds, they're going to produce nice flowers. Yeah, ape bead, ape hikha. So this talk is not only in Sikhi, it's in every religion. In English, what do they say? You reap what you sow. Yeah? You harvest something and you grow it. And we sort of put that in, say the deeds of each and every being are recorded. Pun and Pap are recorded in a huge volume. Now Chittar and Gupt. So the word Chittar actually means a picture. So every time we do an action, a still picture of that is available to the Dharmaraj, the god of death, or the god of judgment, or the person who's given that role. And Gupt means something that's not known. And we might do a part that somebody else doesn't see as a Gupta rule, but the Gupta part of Chittar Gupt records everything that is secret, that is unknown. So Waheguru knows everything. Bin bolya sab kich janda. Yeah? Vaheguru knows everything. Vaheguru's laws and systems record everything and are played back.
And also, just to make that point, is you might think nobody knows, but in your heart, that action has been engraved. You know in yourself that made that gitasi. That made John Butch kick it. I did it on purpose. I did it knowing what the consequence would be. I still did it.
So we did this talk, I think, when you did the current presentation. So don't give anybody else doors. Don't blame anybody else for your karma. Your karma are a consequence of what you did. Yeah. What you did comes back. Now, at the moment we're in the rut, you wouldn't think of it if you looked outside the weather. Yeah, we're in Basant. And one of the shops in Basant talk about spring and what you do in springtime sometimes. You plant. So Guruji says, Guru Amar Das Ji says, Abu Kallu Ayore, in Kaljug you have come now. What should you be doing in Kaljug? Ik naam Bovo Bovo. Bovo means to plant a seed. So in Kaljug, Abu Kallu Ayore, Ik naam Bovo Bovo. Plant the seed of Vaheguru. Plant the right seed. Don't plant the thorns. Don't plant the ones that are going to give you bad karma.
So, ape beach, ape call. Je apa sock man there. If we want sock, what do we have to do to have sock ourselves? Apnu sock, what do we have to do with? What do we have to be able to do? Japana manuich yes, anu sock melt. In our minds we think, I would love it. Some then they are that we enjoy sock, we enjoy peace.
Think about when we did this Sunay Podinga. We said Nanak Bhaktan Sada Vikas Sunay Dukh Pap Karnas. So what do Bhakts not do? They don't do Pap. Yeah.
So things, and we defined, I think earlier, because I wasn't here, but you'd have defined Pap as an action, deed or thought that harms somebody else. So je apa sock among there, apnu sock bandra pinda, that we have to distribute sock as well. Yeah, so when we distribute things to our friends, family, strangers, whoever, je apa sock bandra there, we can then expect sock back. And that's what the law is of Vaheguru. Yeah.
Okay, so Ape Bij Ape Hi Khao is a law of Vaheguru. And through that law, we finish with the final talk. All together?
Nanak.
So this Avan Jana is based on Vaheguru's law. Je ta assi change kam karde, we can escape from this cycle of birth and death. Yeah? But the hukum is Vaheguru's hukum. So when we did the second body, when we talked about hukum is all encompassing. Everybody is within hukum. Yeah? Nanak hukumi avo jao. So I kind of like to bring it all together. Maharaj says that if you do so if we continue to do the right things, we will come outside of hukam. Everybody? Okay. Nanak hukmi avo jao. So, this coming and going is through hukam. Yeah? Those that come outside of that and release themselves from Avanjana, Maharaj has a talk. It's like the sun's rays merging back with the sun. Suraj kiran mile jal ka jal hua ram. Like light merges into light and water merges into water. Jyoti Jyotirali Sampuran Thiyaram. Those that are Vaheguru Bhakt that do Nam Simran in this life, then they merge into Vaheguru. So at the start we talked about Atma and Paramatma. This Atma will merge into Paramatma like the rays of the sun merge into the sun, like water merges into water. Yeah? And the Atma will merge into the Paramatma. But whilst the soul is in duality, it's attached to the world. Remember when we started at this point, we talked about the Buddha either will do Kauj of worldly, sansari things, or it will do Kauj of Paramatma. Now those that do the cause of just sansar, they forever will be linked with the sansar. Jammi jana, mari jana, they'll come and go and they'll be absorbed into this world all the time. They keep coming and going. Nanak hukmi avo jao. But those that come outside of that and merge with Paramatma, they fulfilled what they came to do in this world, what the purpose of human life is, to merge into Vaheguru. So that sort of concludes, in summary, what the 20th body is saying. So the body is all about, so if we go back to the beginning, hopefully, yeah. So we started off here by saying that the body, in brief, was telling us the following things. It focuses on removing the dirt that exists between us and Vaheguru, that wall of falsehood. It defines what is dirt and filth at a stool physical level and at a suksham spiritual level. Bapun is explained, and then Maharaj tells us how do we wash that dirt. Through O Tope Name Ke Rang. Pyar for Vaheguru's Naam, Pyar for Vaheguru. Yeah, okay? Okay, so we'll stop now.
Meheraban, Sahib Meheraban, Meheraban, Sahib Meheraban, Meheraban, Sahib Meheraban, Meheraban, Sahib Meheraban, Sahib Meheraban.
idea that led to Kirtan being moved to an instrument where it was never intended to be. And all our Guru Maharajas did Kirtan with string instruments. So it's really good to see that our next generation are continuing that forward. So always good. So I'm looking at a few other people like that. Maybe next time you can do a shop there, because I can't keep picking on the same people all the time. It's kind of not fair. I'm sure you'll step up for the next one. And anybody else. So thank you for everybody. Thank you two for doing the shop. Just to remind you, the next class is on the 8th of March. It was. Keep going.
Yeah, it is the 8th of March.
Yeah,
Okay.
just leave
Um,
it. Leave it.
Yeah. So, yeah, next class is 8th of March. Also, if you remember at the end of the last programme, we mentioned that what we would like to do is just set up a parents forum where we kind of have a two-way dialogue in terms of the kind of things that you want to see in Sikhi class, because we said at the time that Sikhi class is your Sikhi class. We're just here to help and see what we can do to try and take Sikhi class in the direction that you want it. So at the end of today's programme, if anybody has any ideas, maybe come and see us whilst we're kind of packing the equipment away, and then we can kind of take things forward from there. So happy to have like a meeting, if formally, if that's what you want. But if you want to just kind of come and see us and talk about what you want, that's fine.
If you want to take us out for lunch, that's acceptable as well. Yeah.
Okay, good.
What about you? Yeah. All good. Thank you for your attendance. I know the weather was.
Any questions about anything we've covered today? Before we close.
Me?
Okay, I mean,
Take it, yeah.
how did this look?
What does that mean? I think it's like in
Meherwan. No? Do you want to tell your dad? Then he'll tell us. Yeah. So I just want to thank you for coming out on a day that wasn't very nice weather-wise. It was horrible and nasty. But you know something? There's something about God Sikhs wanted to come and talk about their Guru Sahibs, and to do that. The fact that I twisted my dad's arm behind the back a little as well. So thank you for that. You're my favourite now, just for this month. Yeah. So everybody, thank you. We'll do Fateh and we'll meet next month on the 8th. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki